I got a call from my agent saying that the deal was fallen through. I basically agreed terms, but the deal's fallen through. They want to give Ramos a chance to get fit, healthy, and play. And I was crushed by it. Like I was really, really upset, really disappointed.
Hello and welcome back to Forever a Lion podcast, an Orlando City podcast, all about the people and the different people around the club. We got somebody interesting here today. Each episode, we dive into who these people are and their relationship to Orlando City. But this person has a relationship to Orlando City and Orlando Pride. So settle in, grab a beverage, and let's talk some Orlando City. Welcome to the podcast, Scott Sutter.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Appreciate it. You got a much better setup than I have behind you. I need to hang some flags up or something.
I know I've got this is, obviously loud and proud Orlando. I've got to have a little bit of decor here,
But
trying
yeah,
to make it decorative. I was trying to look, you're not back there, but I've got some Orlando Pride players. I've got, different some MLS players that some maybe you played with in your time. I'm revealing a bit too much there for people who might not know who you are, but please start off by telling us who you are and what your relationship to Orlando City is and what brought you to the club.
yeah. So as you mentioned, my name is Scott Sutter. I'm a former professional soccer player for many years, but that was in a galaxy far, far away. It seems now, but yeah, I played for 17 years as a professional, and I spent the last 3 years of my career over here in the MLS. And I spent 2 wonderful years in 2017 and 18 with Orlando City. It was the first 2 years of the new stadium of Inter and Co. And then I spent my final year in Vancouver before retiring. And then since then, I've kind of gone, like many a former professional soccer player, down the route of coaching. And I have landed back in Orlando doing I started doing some individual coaching and camps and things like that. And that individual development kind of role led me to a full-time role now with Orlando Pride. And I also do the broadcast, the color commentating for Orlando City games. So I am deeply ingrained into the Orlando soccer scene. So it's nice to be back home.
So that's player, commentator, coach, right? I mean, I think only Miguel would have you competing with you there in terms of roles.
Seb is he kind of went through the stages as well as being youth coach and player and now obviously the head coach of the Pride. But yeah, Miguel is definitely right up there.
I'd love to see Seb do some commentary. Maybe one day we'll
Yeah,
get him in the booth.
maybe one day. Yeah, yeah.
So how did you come about, getting to Orlando City? How did that kind of transfer? I believe it was from the Grasshoppers, right? How did that
It was
come
from
about?
Yeah, it was from Young Boys. So I
Young
played
boys,
at
sorry.
a
My
team in
apologies.
Switzerland. No, no worries. Um I spent the majority, well, all of aside from the MLS, I spent most of my career in the Swiss Super League. That's the birth country of my dad, so that's a story in and of itself because I was born and raised in England, but my dad is of Swiss heritage, so he kind of moved there before my brother and I were born, and then ended up like staying, marrying there, and we were born and raised there. But I had the opportunity to go over there, and basically join an academy that had a really incredible setup for developing and reputation for developing youth players. So that kind of brought me to Switzerland. I ended up staying there for 15 years and playing for a couple of clubs over there, and also representing the Swiss national team, which was special. Yeah, so I was at Young Boys for like 9 years before. I remember it was probably around October, November time of 2016 where I got a call from my agent. I'd always kind of expressed interest of wanting to go to the MLS. I've always been a big fan of the United States, and always kind of, as the MLS grew, obviously it started kind of with Beckham putting it into the limelight, especially over in Europe, and I spent from the age of 21 until until I was like 27, 28. I spent every like vacation somewhere in the US. Whether I was on a golf trip with my parents, we came to Florida. I went to Vegas a couple of times, went to LA a couple of times, and I always kind of wanted to, come over here and play. And so my agent knew that, and he gave me a call and said, "Oh, there might be an opportunity for you in Orlando." Orlando was, obviously relatively new team. Former friend of mine, a friend of mine, sorry, yeah, he's a former Orlando City player in Adrian Winter. So I kind of knew a little bit about the club, and I played a game against Olympiacos in the Europa League, and I had a really good game. And my agent was working with another agent over here who was of Greek heritage, so he was an Olympiacos fan, and he watched the game. Contacted Jason Kreis, who he knew, and said, "Oh, I think I've got I can solve your right back problems." And there was only a problem in the sense that there was obviously younger player in Rafael Ramos who was a good player, but he was very injury plagued and had a lot of issues with his hamstrings. And anyway, so he gauged my interest, and I said, "Yeah, I'm definitely interested in it." And I'd been at the club for about 8 years at the time, and I felt that it was coming to an end and I wanted something new and something different. Anyway, December hit and we were on our off-season break, and I was actually in Hong Kong with my now wife, Claudia, and I got a call from my agent saying that the deal was fallen through. I basically agreed terms, but the deal's fallen through. They want to give Ramos a chance to get fit, healthy, and play. And I was crushed by it. Like, I was really, really upset, really disappointed, really kind of surprisingly so, actually. I didn't think, but I'd already looked into it moving over. I was excited by the prospect of just something completely different, completely new. And yeah, it was really hard news to take. We went on holiday, had a great time we went on to the Philippines and came back to Switzerland, started pre-season, and it hurt me again because I remember sitting in my car. It was middle of January. We just started pre-season, and it was freezing. There was snow on the ground outside, and I was thinking I could be in sunny Orlando right now, and I'm not. And I'm going through another pre-season, and yeah, that was basically it. I started the season back up, and then out of the blue, I got another call from my agent saying Orlando are back in. Apparently, had another issue with his hamstring, and they kind of wanted to get someone. And I think 3 days later, I signed, and yeah, it kind of went really quickly after that, and then had to go through the whole visa process, and ended up coming shortly after the first game of the season in the new stadium. Sorry, that was a long answer to your
No, that was
question.
Scott. That is great information. I mean, we did not know that. I don't think any Orlando City fan knew that you had a situation where, it kind of fell through like that, and that you were, I felt like you got to the club and immediately were very settled. Like, the fans took to you, everybody liked having you there, you performed well. I think you were immediately like a fan favorite. So it's interesting to hear your side of things, that you were so keen to come and that you kind of
Yeah,
really wanted the projects. I think that's really inspiring. You don't always, especially 2015, right? This was, what was this, 2015, 2017?
20 just
Yeah, so we
2017.
were only 2 years in MLS. It was still a very raw project. Adrian had gone, Jason had come in. So I think there was, not everybody would look at that and say this is a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I just like, and this might have been towards the latter part of my career, but I feel like it's my personality in general that I loved playing soccer, but it wasn't everything for me. And I went through a really bad injury when I was 21. I was injured for 2 years, and I thought I would have to retire. I was told by the surgeons that likely I would need to, and spent 2 years on the sideline, and it gave me a different perspective after that. And of course, like, when I trained, I gave it everything. When I played, I gave it everything. Like, the defeats crushed me, and the wins were brilliant, and I loved being there. But I knew there was kind of like more to life than just playing soccer, and I wanted to be happy, and I wanted to be, live somewhere and be somewhere that I knew I would be comfortable. And I really felt that Orlando would be that place. And I think, looking back, it was kind of another strange kind of twist to it, is that we played, when I was at Young Boys, this is I basically agreed terms, but I hadn't, or not agreed to, yeah, because I was in the last like 4 months of my contract at that time in Switzerland. I agreed terms with Orlando, but we still had a cup semi-final to play. And the following day, we played this semi-final against a lower league team in our stadium. We actually flipped the fixture because their stadium wasn't up to the standards of a semi-final of a cup. And bearing in mind, young boys, we hadn't won anything for as old as I was at the time, so 30 years old. It was the last time they won the cup, so it was a massive occasion for them. And we ended up losing that game, and it was our only loss at home that season. And I think that had we had won that semi-final, I don't think they would have let me go when I asked to go, because we still had 4 months. The cup final would have been in the summer, and I was their starting fullback. So strangely, even though we lost that game, it was probably might have been a blessing in disguise that, okay, we lost the game. They don't necessarily need to, I'd had such a good relationship with them, and I still really do, but I don't think that they would have stopped me from going, but I think they would have probably said, can you not wait until the summer? We've got this cup final. I probably might have also said, look, I want to be in that final as well. And who knows, it might have worked out very different. So, but unfortunately, we played a terrible game. We lost 1-0. So, but yeah, to your point though, I came in and felt, yeah, just in this immediate like connection with the city and the people, and I loved Young Boys. Young Boys was great. I was at Grasshoppers for 8 years. I've got very much to be thankful for giving my start. Young Boys, I was there for a long time, so I was a long-serving player with 8-9 years, which now is kind of unheard of that players go that long. But it was time, and when I joined Orlando, I felt this kind of rapport with the fans within like 6 months or a year that I only really got after 8 years at Young Boys, and it was so cool to see. And it's like even now when I go back to the stadium and I see people, some people recognize me, not so much the younger generation, though they don't know who I am, but the older ones, and I've never had a single negative interaction with any fan, whether that was after a defeat, whether that was after retiring. And I do like to think that it's partly because I was an okay player, but I think that I feel like I'm an okay person as well. And I remember being a fan when I was younger, and I was a Tottenham Hotspur fan, and I used to, wait outside the stadium until players came through. Sometimes my dad let me, or tried to get me sneaking through the gates where the players' lounge was, beat the security and stuff, and then get autographs. So I knew what it meant to other people, and it cost me nothing but my time to do it. So I always had that time, and I think that's kind of what probably also endeared me to many of them, and still probably do.
And you've led me perfectly, really, to our next question, which is, what is your favorite off-field memory of Orlando City? So this is anything that isn't, when you're actually on the field playing the game. This can be, maybe one of the away trips that you guys are on, the bus or the plane, or I don't know. What do you feel like is your favorite memory that was not during play?
Maybe going to Epcot Center with all the players and dressing up in Hawaiian shirts and having a few too many drinks and then getting kicked out. That was a pretty good one.
It's pretty infamous in Orlando City history, that one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was brilliant. And then
We won't talk too much about what happened that
yeah,
day.
shout out to the fans that had the sign up that said what was it? Epcot doesn't know how to party or something like that. But that was
Uh,
blown, on that, that was blown way out of proportion. It was a really good day. It was just a big group of us enjoying a couple of days off, and obviously we had a few drinks as people do at Epcot, but
Everybody goes drinking around the world, man. It doesn't matter if you're a
yeah,
soccer
but it
player
was
or
fine.
not.
It was like nothing happened, and I actually wasn't. I was on my way. I was walking out of the park when I got the text messages come through. I was with my buddy. Actually, my buddy was over from England visiting, and we'd like kind of, Houdini'd out of there before stuff kind of started kicking off in
Yeah.
the English part. And I got text saying, yeah, like people in holding cells. What's going on? I'm like, oh no, we're just going to get an Uber back. But it was funny because the next day, I was I went golfing with Miles Joseph. So Miles was our assistant coach at the time. And on like the fourth hole or something, he gets a phone call from from Jason Christ. And it's really serious. We're on the putting green, and he's like, walks over to the side. You can tell he's like in a deep conversation, and he puts the phone down. And he asked me, he goes, Scott, do you know what happened at Epcot yesterday? I was like, no idea, mate. No. Like, I was like, we were there, but like nothing, I knew full well. I
I'd
was like, oh
gone.
boy. But yeah, that was fun. No, other than that, like, what I do, I love now. I love golf. So pretty much any time I was able to go out golfing.
Did you ever do any of the charity events with Kay where you
Yes,
golf
yes.
with, with a fan or with another
Yeah, I
business
love
owner
them.
for the
I love
foundation?
golfing in general, and I love the social aspects of it, especially over here in the States. I think in England, Ireland, Scotland, it's much more traditional. You're walking, rain, shine, rain, sun, whatever. Here it's kind of, you go out, you have a couple of beers on the course, you got some music going. It's much more casual, laid back, and the foundation was kind of, even better. Any kind of charity scramble, it's for a good cause. It was such a well-run event. From Kay did incredibly well putting everything together, and it was always very enjoyable. And it was always gutting when we weren't able to go, whether that was because we had a game the next day. But on the off chance, I remember there was one where we were all off and a bunch of us came. That was so much fun. And a couple of years ago, I was able to do one as well here. Yeah, so always a ton of fun. But I enjoy the travel as well. I know I'm going back and forth between Epcot Golf and now with the traveling, but
No,
the away
that's
trips are
great.
fun, man. Like, it was very new to me in the sense that, like, I was very used to traveling um
Yeah, that's a
for
long way trip compared to Europe.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we had a couple of longer ones. I remember we played in Kazakhstan in the EuroLeague. We played in Azerbaijan in the EuroLeague. So, I was used to traveling, just perhaps not as much and not as far. You're not flying as far to Spain or to Portugal, sometimes to Eastern Europe, to Russia and Ukraine. I went a couple of times. So there you got longer flights, but I wasn't quite used to it this way. And also, I wasn't used to sorry, just on my table, how casual everything was around the
Mm.
travel. We used to drive to the MCO, valeted our cars, and we went in like casual gear. And I think the casual gear, smart casual, usually put on some Lululemons and a t-shirt and whatever. And we weren't all looking the same. I think that was largely because of Kaká, because if everyone was dressed in purple and you got him, like, you're not going to get through any airport. But it was new to me to fly sometimes in the West Coast like 2 days before a game, and then you wouldn't really have any meetings or meals. And I was used to going from the airport in Switzerland, like, to the tarmac hotel, maybe train in the stadium, hotel, game, tarmac, home. Whereas here it's like, okay, here's your per diem, you've got however many dollars it is. We'll see you on game day for pre-match, which is like at 2 p.m. on the day of the game, or 3 p.m. on the day of the game. And I was like, what do we do now? They're like, well, we go somewhere in New York City for dinner. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, we should go out for dinner. Oh, what about after the game? Yeah, we'll book something. We'll reserve a restaurant somewhere in West Hollywood. And I'm like, oh, amazing. Let's go to let's go to Hollywood and have a dinner. So that was like mind blowing to me,
Yeah. You get
how kind
mini
of
trip.
casual. Yeah, and it's way better now, obviously, because it's so much more professional. Chartered flights, they go from the stadium straight to the airport and home. So it's definitely better for the bodies, for the recovery, for the overall professionalism of it. But it was way more fun when I was still in the league, and you did have these little mini trips. You had these little coffee clubs that you go to, the coffee shops, and you'd have that evening after the game where you could, reflect on the game, chat with your friends, go for a nice dinner. Vancouver, we rarely went for dinner, but we always went and found a liquor store and we got a bottle of wine or two. And there was about 5 or 6 of us in the room, and we just played cards, we listened to music, we had a couple of glasses of wine, and we just kind of chatted about the game and had laughs. And that is I've got very, very fond memories of doing that after the games. Whereas obviously now, and rightly so, it's about business, and it's about, performing and doing everything you can to be ready for the next games. Um, Again, much better this way, a little bit more fun the other way.
Did you have any city in particular that you always like, oh, a way trip there? We love going there and exploring.
I
Did
mean,
anyone?
I love the notable cities. I love going to LA.
Mm.
It's always kind of a bit special, playing against LA Galaxy, just because I knew the kind of the reputation that the Galaxy had, and that kind of thing. So I just loved. I was familiar with LA from having been there for many times before. New York was always fun. Again, for me, as you know, kind of coming from England, you see the skyline when you drive in. They stayed in a lovely hotel especially when we play, and I think they still do. When you play the Red Bulls, you stay in Hoboken in the W Hotel. It's a lovely hotel, and you kind of overlook the New York City skyline. So it's a beautiful, walk, pre-game walk. In the evening before the game. The evening before the game. When you play New York City, we stayed kind of right down center next to Grand Central Station. So you're right, kind of in the mix of it, and I love that. The ones I didn't really enjoy visiting, I didn't like going to Columbus.
Some of
Didn't
the
enjoy
stadiums are
that.
really rural, their location, so it's like to do stuff a bit more
Yeah,
difficult. Yeah.
I remember. I think I said to Nikki Budlich there, I was like, "Oh, by the way, if you want to force me into retirement, trade me to Columbus,
Yeah.
because I ain't living here." And this was pre-stadium, and obviously before they were really good as well. But like obviously now, sporting wise, obviously got a great stadium. And Cincinnati, when I played Cincinnati, they were at the college stadium, great atmosphere. But now obviously they got a fantastic one, as does Columbus, showing like how much the game over here is evolving, and the league is getting better and better and much more competitive.
So, different question. What is your favorite on-field memory? So this can be a goal or a time a trophy or anything any memory you have with your time in Orlando City. I said trophy then, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like,
That's more for the USL guys,
yeah, yeah,
and the Open Cup guys. Sadly, your tenure didn't have that
yeah,
2017 season was, yeah, it was hard. Let's put it that way.
yeah. I'm trying to think of my favorite.
You
My
did score
favorite
a really nice
memory.
goal, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's probably one of the nicest goals in my career was against Atlanta, but we end up
Mm.
losing the game 2-1
Are you the
against
kind
a
of guy that if you score but we lost, it's like still a bad memory?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it softens the blow somewhat, obviously, but you're still disappointed at having lost. There is some, moment of, or the sense of pride that you did score, and it was a nice goal to score. But I think I don't know which one it was, because I had quite a notable scoring spree when I scored, I think, 3 goals in 3 or 4 games, and 2 of them were like last minute goals. One of them was a header against, I believe, Philadelphia, and the other one was a last minute winner, I think, against New England. But I'm not too sure. You need to fact check me on that.
I'll have to go back and
And
fact check you on that.
yeah, and those kind of 2 moments of dying seconds. One of them, I think it was against Philadelphia. I think was to equalize, and 3-3. I think in the last seconds of the game. That was pretty cool. I also had one a last minute or last second, actually, was the last kick of the game against Seattle away, and that was from a Kaká free kick. That's also kind of a cool one. You're away from home. You've got the hostility of the away fans. I think they were winning 2-1, and last seconds of the game we had a free kick on the left hand side, and I kind of dipped to the near post and headed it in. And those last minute goals are brilliant. But again, like the ones that were scored in front of your home fans down that home fan end, which they both were, that was really special. Like, I still get goosebumps now when I talk about it and think about it.
So yeah, you're right. It was against Philly and New England, and then three games sorry, 3 times in 4 games you
Three
scored.
times in four
Yeah, you
games.
only scored 4 goals in your time over the 2 years that you played for us. So that was a very like mini hot streak you're on there.
There you go.
So not surprising. When you see the young players or any of the Orlando City players celebrate in front of the wall now, does that bring you back? Do you kind of have that like memory of what it was like when you were playing and you would celebrate in front
Yeah.
of?
Yeah, definitely, man. Like and when I started doing the broadcast about a year ago now, I was down on the field before one of the games, and I remember I did like a story on my Instagram where I actually like walked over for the first time, and kind of stood right there where I celebrated, and that's a cool little moment, because I hadn't really been on the field much before that moment. Before I started as a broadcast commentator, I'd been to the game, but I was in the stadium. I hadn't been on the field probably since I left as a player in 2019, and So I went over there and just like stood in that little corner or that little spot where I knew I celebrated after the game and during the game. And yeah, that brings back special memories. I'm very sentimental with things like that,
Nostalgia.
you know?
You're a
Yeah,
nostalgic guy.
much definitely. And that was also when I, as we'll probably get to with the Pride, you know, being in the same facility, having the exact same locker that I had and walking the same dirt path to the training field that I once did. So, you know, I get nostalgic for sure.
Next question for you. This is a tough one. And you can have like honorable mentions for this because you might have some friends that might text you and say, "Why didn't you pick me as
Okay.
your favorite Orlando City player of all time?" Who is it
My
that you got?
favorite Orlando City player of all time.
Yeah.
Like, how would you define favorite?
I could be any. I mean, just
Like, are you saying
maybe you were
the
like,
one that I
wow,
thought
you were
the
amazed at how good
best?
they were, or you really enjoyed playing with them, or that you just thought, wow, they were really incredible, or maybe you just
Yeah,
really like their personality and you just say, this is my bestie.
yeah. I mean, I had a couple of like what I felt really good friends that have come out of it. So it's difficult to put it on one. I mean, you can't not have Kaká in the sense that it was
And you
him,
played
right?
with him.
And and that was, you know, something that I'm still asked about today, and even younger players that that are 10, 11 years old know who he was. So to have having played with someone like that is is incredible and was such a nice guy as well. And just a little bit about that, because like when I left DC, when I was coaching over there and I moved back to Orlando, this was 2.5 years ago, and I was starting my own coaching business. I sent him a text message. He hasn't heard from me for 5 years, you know. And I said, "Hey, Ricky, hope everything's well. Hope you and your family are doing great. I'm starting this new coaching thing. I was wondering if you might be able to do just like a couple of sentences, a testimonial that I can put on my website." And I didn't, think that he would text. Like, why would he? But he responded within the hour and said, "Hey, Scott, great to hear from you. Like, how you doing? Yeah, absolutely, no problem." And he sent me something, and that's just like really touching for me, you know. And it just shows he's a normal guy. And I had another great interaction when he was honored at the Legends Terrace and being inducted, the first name to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I was asked to be a part of that. And I also had the pleasure of being part of his interview and the kickoff minus 60 that I do for the pre-game show. And it's a similar thing. As I didn't know if he would remember who I am, that he once played with me. But then when he saw me and greeted me, like, hugged me like I was a long lost brother. And it's special to have that kind of embrace with him and that memory of playing with him. So I have to say him. Honorable mentions go to the likes of like Dom Dwyer, good friend of mine, Will Johnson, good friend of mine, Seb Hines, Giles Barnes, become very close. We were close before I started working with them, but yeah, we still talk about those times and the memories we had.
Yeah, I mean, Kaká is, I feel like a lot of people, you hear that response about him, just that he's a very down to earth guy. I know that the little interaction that I had with him, he was always very respectful, very personable guy. He can never say enough great things about
Mm.
Ricky. She says, "Oh, I love Ricky. Ricky was amazing." So she's on first name basis with Kaká, obviously. Alrighty, next question for you. Who is your favorite person at Orlando City? Now, this is not a player. This could be a coach member. This could be a staff member. This could be a fan. This could be anybody around the club that you're like, you know what? I just really connect with this person, or they're like one of my favorite people around the club.
I have to go with two, I think. One of them that I remember kind of from my time working that I've still kind of kept in touch with, besides from Kay, obviously Kay, like, Kay and I go now a few years back, and she definitely gets the honorable mention because um, always had a great relationship with her. She's, it's always nice seeing her, connecting with her. She includes me in some stuff and asks if I'm available for things anytime I can. I really want to help her out as much as I can. She's doing wonderful things for the community, and it's just, yeah, she bleeds purple, which is incredible. From my personal experience when I was a player, I really loved Miles Joseph. Other coaching staff like Miles Joseph and Bobby Murphy, specifically those two guys. I love Miles, nothing but good things to say about him. And I see him every time he comes into town, whether that was in Portland when he was at Portland, now he's at Charlotte as an assistant coach. And whenever he's here, I grab a coffee with him. Bobby Murphy, he was, such an upbeat guy. I really got on well with the coaching staff. Jason was a little bit, as the head coach, a little bit off to the side, but CJ, Bobby Murphy, and Miles Joseph were great guys. And Bobby, I'm still in touch with. He's doing really well in the USL League. I think it's League One, might be League. I think it's USL League One with I think they're called Hearts of Pine or something like that. I think the team is
The
called.
Hearts of Pine team
Yeah,
up in Maine, is it?
up in
No,
Maine. That's the one.
Portland,
Yeah,
Maine, I
yeah.
think.
That's
Yeah.
it. Portland, Maine. That's it.
I
Yeah,
did not
yeah,
know Bobby Murphy managed them.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
honestly, until you said Bobby Murphy's name, I forgot he existed. But I mean, Bobby Murphy goes way back to the Adrian days. Back
Yeah,
way back when he was his assistant coach. And yeah, a hilarious guy. If
yeah.
anyone's ever met Bobby Murphy,
Very,
they'll tell you
very charismatic.
he's got better banter than most English people, I would say, really. And Miles too, and CJ. I remember that you said they were all really nice, personable
Just nice,
guys.
good people.
Bobby Murphy, wow, I didn't know he was manager of Hearts of Pine. You learn something
Yeah,
new every day.
there you
Alrighty,
go.
what part of Orlando City do you enjoy the most? Now, this could be, game days, this could be the community events, this could be, doing the commentary. It might have changed over times. You might have had different things that you loved when you were a player to what you like now. But what parts of Orlando City
Yeah,
do you enjoy the most?
I love, I love going to the stadium. Um, on any kind of level, whether that was as a player, whether it's commentating, whether that's working with the Pride. I just think it's such a great stadium. I love the look of it. I love the colours. I love the field. I love how good a job they do with the field. The Bermuda grass. I love playing on the Bermuda grass. And again, every time I go back, I kind of I see the memories when I walk through the tunnel and see all the graffiti and the UV lights and being in the locker room that I'm now fortunate to be kind of in and around with when Pride have games. It brings everything back, and I just love being a part of it. And it's really special that I get to be, even before I was with the Pride, just covering the Orlando City games and knowing the players inside and out and watching every minute of every game, whereas before I didn't really watch that much soccer, if I'm honest. I didn't really catch games, or, it just wasn't something that I really kind of did. But now I'm very much a part of it. So to kind of be very much involved, even though I don't know many of the players or any of the players really. I'm not around their training ground that much. I've been a couple of times, but to kind of know the players in and out and really be a fan of the team, as opposed to when I was a player. You're not a fan, you're just a player, you're an employee, you're kind of there to do a job. And now I'm a fan. Now I want them to win. I want them to be successful even more, probably even more so than I did when I was a player. No, probably not. But
I think that's something that a lot of people, right? They don't realize that mentality as a player is very different often from like a fan. And it's interesting to see like I had a similar thing. Obviously I worked there for very long, and then I stopped working there. I became really just a fan. And in some ways you fall in love with it even more because it's not a job, then it's really just a passion, right? It's something
Mhm.
that you're really interested in. I love the way you described the stadium and how that makes you feel. And even not on game days, and there's something about the atmosphere there, right? The anticipation
Yeah.
of those moments and your memories there. Could you talk a little bit about your game day ritual? Again, it might have changed. You might have had one as a player, and obviously, I think a lot of fans, it changes over time the way that they interact with their going to the stadium or tailgating or doing whatever. So, what does that look like for you? Then, and what does it look like for you now?
Yeah. So as a player, so obviously most of the games that we played were evening games, 7:30 kickoff. And I was actually fortunate to never have had a rain delay or a lightning delay in my time as a
Wow,
player here. Yeah, which
that's a
is
claim to fame, Scott. I think.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
never did. I had one in Dallas once. That was the only time. But no, so usually and this is also different. This is also kind of new to me, and I really love this the way we do it here. So just a quick big backstory. In Switzerland, for an evening game, even afternoon games, we'd meet at the stadium. We'd have breakfast together in the morning. We'd have, depending on the coach, some might have us out on the field in the stadium because we played on turf. They might have us do, a bit of rondos or like boxes or whatever, go through some walk-through set pieces. Then we'd go get showered, go to the hotel together, have our rooms, have a couple of hours downtime, have lunch together, we'd go for a walk, and then we'd go to the stadium all together in the coach. Some coaches, one coach I had even had us spend the nights before home games in a hotel together. And so it was refreshing for me to come here where if the game was at 7:30, that we had to meet at 5 or 5:30, like 2.5 hours before kickoff. So I kind of woke up. I usually like to do something in the morning. So after breakfast, my wife and I would usually just go for a stroll. We lived in Baldwin Park at the time. So kind of, nice little neighborhood. And we'd kind of do a little walk around the lake or, to the dog park, watch some dogs and then walk back. I usually just I'd like to uh, have my kind of pre-game meal and all that. And I usually try to get like a little nap in for an hour or so after lunch. And then I usually had another little bit of a walk and then headed to the stadium. When I was in the stadium, I didn't really have that much of a ritual. I was kind of very much light-hearted about the whole thing. There are some players that are very, headphones on, got their game faces on, like, unwavering, this is what they do. I was very calm and relaxed, but kind of jovial in a way. I was nervous. I was always nervous before every single game I ever played. Didn't matter if it was in the Champions League or if it was in a friendly game. There was always this kind of nervous energy of wanting to do well and the expectations. But I didn't. I kind of wanted to enjoy the moment, and I remember being really nervous before my very first time in a first team locker room before a game when I was 17 or 18. And I remember thinking that, like, I had this kind of almost like epiphany, thinking, like, why am I nervous? Like, what is the point of being nervous? You worked so hard for this moment. Like, this is everything you ever wanted. Like, why now are you going to be nervous and let that overcome the enjoyment of being able to be a professional soccer player and be in this environment that millions and millions of kids want to do? And from that kind of moment onwards, I always try to approach it like, look, this is a game. You love to do it, and this is the enjoyment, playing the games, not the preseason or the beat test or the weight room or the injuries or the setbacks and the all those naysayers or whatever it is, someone saying you're not good enough, you're not going to make it. Like, this is the best part of it. And that's why I kind of always was, joking and playing with the ball, keeping, juggling, having jokes and stuff like that. So I didn't really have many rituals in that sense. And now that I don't play, I have literally none. When I do broadcast now, I just do a little bit of research about the opposing team. Obviously, Orlando City players I know very well. So it's kind of doing my due diligence about the opposing team and players and ones to watch and stuff like that. So, but Evan Weston does a great job at kind of, taking the reins on the play-by-play and all the facts and stuff in the world. Yeah, credit where credit's due.
I think it's interesting you saying about you're always nervous, right? You always had those butterflies. I think a lot of performers, in some ways, it's kind of what it is, right? You're going out there to perform, right? You're going out there to produce. I think a lot of people have that, like, and they feel like it's normal, and that's in a good way. And they say, like, if you're not a little bit nervous, then maybe that's a bad thing. So I think for you, that's pretty normal, it seems.
Yeah, I think it shows you care about it.
Yeah.
You want to do a good job, but it's your job as a professional athlete or performer, whatever it is. It might be a musician. Is that you're able to not let that overcome you and still be able to perform in those moments. As soon as that final whistle went, you're kind of at peace and you're right there where you belong.
Did you find some real moments of joy? Like, when I know the nervousness building up to it, but when you're in the game, or maybe you made like a really great, pass or cross or went past the guy, do you have that sort of like, oh, that was that was really
Yeah,
satisfying.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
You
that
just
was
like to really enjoy it while you're playing though, not
yeah,
the nerves
no.
maybe go away a little bit.
No, that as soon as that final that first whistle goes, those nerves just evaporate. You know, you're kind of in it. You've been there many times before, and your enjoyment. Yeah, I think you might be nervous until maybe the first touch, I guess, until you get a couple of touches. But as soon as you do something good, as you say, it gives you that confidence. Confidence is an incredible drug. You know, like if you play with that confidence, you get that confidence through doing the small things right, you become a hell of a player, and you know, it can change a player and it can break a player. So we see that all the time.
What does Orlando City mean to you personally?
It means I mean, it means so much, and I'm not just saying that because, you know, that's kind of what I have to do being a part of this podcast, but it was such a big change for myself moving here, but also my now wife, my then girlfriend, and it was a big sacrifice on her part when I first moved over, because she had still a year left of her PhD at the time, I think. She had PhD at the time, and so she was like back and forth. I think she flew over 8 times or 9 times in the year. Massive credit to her for, you know, being consistent so that we didn't spend longer than a month apart, which was incredible. So she racked up a lot of miles, and that kind of jet lag kind of, you know, made it difficult on her body and her concentration, everything. You know, massive credit to her. You know, and then it was our first kind of move away together. When I was in Switzerland, she moved into the house that I had. But this was our first move away together. It was our first time buying furniture together, and having that kind of thing of us against the world. All our families are back. And then, you know, fast forward a little, you know, a few years down the line, we got married here. Andy, I forgot to mention Andy, that person who I love from the club, Chaplain Andy. He married us twice, actually. We got eloped at Hillstone Restaurant on the dock at the back because it was our favorite restaurant. And we had my wife's sister and mum and my brother and Eric Eustruck, who Eric was our like team manager at the time, or assistant general manager, who became a good friend, and we were there. We had a little kind of ceremony and we had lunch afterwards, and then a year later we did a kind of a bigger wedding where many people flew in from England and Switzerland, and Andy officiated us once again. So I'm sorry, Andy, if you're listening to this or see this. I mean, you are just a big part of my heart. So, and then you go on a little bit after that, we had our first child here in Orlando as well. So he's American and he was born in Orlando, and his name is Leo, and it's spelled Lio, and his middle name is Noah. So the first 4 letters of his name spell lion, and we are obsessed with lions because it was Orlando City, it was the lion. We've got we've got more. We've got 3 big lion paintings in our house. 2 of them that the artist himself, I found out who it was, a guy from Zimbabwe who lived in Orlando, did customize for us. So we had like a female line and a male line, and he did that for my wife's birthday one year. Yeah, so we are, you know, and that was kind of that was sparked by Orlando City. So again, like a long-winded question, but it means the world to us, and we were always trying to find our way back here, and we were fortunate to find a house that we really loved, and it was our first house purchase here. Before, we'd always kind of rented and moved around and bounced around, and now we put down some roots. So yeah, super happy to be here. We got a great balance of life.
That's really cool to hear about your lion pictures. That's awesome. The only other person I know who has like lion paintings is Kay. She has several in her house as well. That's like a thing. Yeah. I mean, you want to put the logo on, but you want some, some symbolism there, and lion, very
Yeah.
strong, of course. That's all awesome, Scott. And you kind of answered one of my questions there already. And talking about Hillstone, but give us a few more of like your sort of our favorite Orlando spots. They could be like restaurants or coffee shops, or maybe just parts of town that you really like to go to, or you really like or love.
So we you know, we love the Winter Park area, you know, having moved close to, well, when we lived in Baldwin Park, now we live in Winter Park. I'm a big coffee guy. I love coffee. It's kind of a hobby of mine as well, not just visiting coffee shops, but I've got a nice little setup at home, and I do the whole weighing of the beans, the spraying of the beans,
You're
the
one of these
grinder,
guys.
one of those
Okay,
like
you're full
sets. So
cafetiere at home.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I
full. I
enjoy
love it.
that. So I've got a couple of ones. I mean, the beans I get are from Lineage, so I love East End Market. I think that's a lovely
Okay, you're a
little
lineage
great
guy. I
great
like
little spot.
lineage. Yeah.
So that's my go-to when I buy beans. I love New General, another coffee shop in Winter Park. You can find me there or the family there on a Saturday morning getting breakfast. I prefer that to Briar Patch, the breakfast thing. Briar Patch is good. I don't
It's
think it's,
controversial, Scott. You
yeah,
got a
I
lot of
think I
strong
don't,
feelings about
I
Briar
know,
Patch.
I don't buy into the hype. It looks great and all that, but I rather avoid the big line out of Briar Patch and go straight to New General and have a breakfast burrito there and a cappuccino. What else? The glass knife. Love the glass knife, as many people I think do. My kids love it as well, and I love the two owners that I've become friends with over the years, Steve and Lance. They're lovely, lovely people. So it's always nice to run into them there. As far as restaurants go, do you know, I went the one a couple of times and I've had nothing but good experience there. It's this one that's opposite the East End Market, called Cora.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I went there twice on, I think one was my, might be my birthday and one was our anniversary, and great experience, great staff, lovely food. But yeah, there's tons. I mean, you're really blessed with food options in and around
I mean,
Orlando. So
even when
too
you've
many to
been
mention.
here from 2017, it's grown. I mean, I've been here since 2011, and the amount of
I
yeah.
do have to got a special mention also
Okay.
to Santiago's Bodega
Which the one down in on Virginia?
on, yeah, Virginia, because it was always, and I mean always, a spot after games to go to when I was a player, because it was one of the few restaurants that's open until like 2 a.m. that still serves food until 1 a.m. So after a game when it's like 11:30, there's like nothing, not many places are open. So we always went to Santiago's. I think, the vibe's good in there in that bar area. The food's great. I've been with Kay there actually as well, once before. And yeah, so special mention to them. They're still going strong. So I like going there every now and then.
Yeah, they got some great tapas down at
Yeah.
Santiago's. Alrighty, there's some great spots there, Scott. I think that's many places that I would like to I've been to and I'm gonna check out for sure. Last question for you. This one was not on my list, but I've got to ask you because he plays the same position as you, and I feel like he's a very exciting player. And I know I'm going to ask you who I'm going to talk about, but Alex Freeman, having done the role that he's been in and been in the position that he's been in, from your perspective, do you feel like he is like a next level right back? Because I always thought you were our best right back, and then Alex has come along, and he might be knocking you off your pedestal.
No, he definitely is. I was pretty good, but this kid has an extremely high ceiling, and I unfortunately don't think he will be in purple much longer. Hopefully, he sticks around for a little bit, but he's had an incredible rise this season so far. I mean, we're only halfway through the season, and again, we're talking about him in this way. Broke into the national team and was, doesn't matter if it's through luck or whatever, like you just happen to play all the games because Dest was injured, and he did incredibly well there. So he's had an incredible rise, but he's so down to earth, and I feel that he's got a great future ahead of him. I know that club's already looking at him. Hopefully he's got a good team behind him that can advise him on what would be the best move for him and for the way he plays. I think that's something I've mentioned on the broadcast before. Like, I think it's, don't necessarily jump at the first opportunity you have, because I think the way he plays, it requires a certain team and a certain manager or head coach that allows him to play how he plays to get the most out of him. I think if you go to like a Bochum in the Bundesliga or like a lower league, like a Kaiserslautern, where you're kind of battling relegation and you have 25% ball possession, you're probably not going to see him thrive. But if you see him go to like a Brighton or someone like that, where you haven't got the it's not a massive club, but they play good football and they, play possession based and they get their fullbacks nice and high. Like, I think that's something that would suit him. And so I think, getting that decision right will be key to his development, because again, his ceiling is high, and he's a joy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, hopefully he's around a bit longer. We're really enjoying watching him, but it's great to hear your perspective because, you played that position. So if anybody knows what it takes to do it in purple, it is yourself. All right. Have you got anybody you want to shout out or anything else you want to mention or any questions or anything about Orlando City you just want to let the people know?
I want people to know just how appreciative I am of everyone that embraced me and my family, and continue to do so. Again, it's become such a big part of our lives, and I'm really proud that I'm able to continue my work in some capacity for and with the organization. And it's been, I know that there's been turbulent times, and even when I was a player, like we didn't perform, we weren't good enough, and that's fine. But it seems that finally the fans are getting rewarded with something, and Oscar Pareja has done a phenomenal job in getting the team to where it is. I think that the front office there are doing brilliant at recruiting the right players, getting the right people in that fit the culture. And yeah, I'm just really proud to kind of be a small part in that. And yeah, thanks to everyone that continues to say some kind words about me, whether to my face or behind my back. It's always nice running into people. So if you ever see me on the streets in the stadium, please come up and say hi. I always like talking football and yeah, chatting with people.
And I didn't ask you, but what is it like, having most of your time hanging out with two of your buds, managing Orlando Pride, doing the coaching side with two guys that are in the same situation, we're players and are on that coaching team.
It's very special. I played under many coaches when I was a player, and for the most part, whenever I saw a head coach and their assistants as being more, you know, work colleagues as opposed to friends, I always felt it was an opportunity missed. And my one of my close friends who manages actually over in Germany in the Bundesliga, we always said like, when we have a club, it'll be different. And I always felt it was an opportunity missed because you want to be able to share those moments with friends, and whether that's good moments, difficult moments, hard work, that whole thing. And now I'm fortunate that I get to do that with two people that I genuinely consider friends, not just acquaintances or former teammates of mine. Like we hang out a lot together. Our families love each other. Our kids are like best friends, and we always do barbecues. So just to have that, and on a daily basis, because we have a lot of laughs, we work hard, but we also, have a lot of jokes, and is a really cool thing to have. So I'm super grateful for Seb, and obviously also Haley Carter for bringing me in and allowing our kind of friendship to hit a new level. Really.
Yeah, and from a fan's perspective, I think it makes a lot of us smile to see, the likes of you and Giles and Seb all in and around the club, right? Miguel, there's so many, like Dennis, I was chatting with him, so many ex-players that still are here and part of the club and around doing different jobs, and that always makes the fans happy. We love to see those faces still here.
Yeah, it's an honor to be again still part of it, and again, thanks for you as well, for asking me to be a part of this. It's enjoyable. It really is.
Well, thank you. You are our first MLS player that's come on, so you can have that as your
Thank
claim to
you.
fame. Thank you very much for joining us on Forever Alliance, Scott. We appreciate you joining and sharing your Orlando City journey. If you've liked what you hear on this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. You can also follow us on anywhere that you listen to your podcast. We are everywhere. If you're on Spotify or Apple, please go ahead and give us a rating, preferably 5 stars if you feel like that's what this is worth to you. Like I said, you can subscribe on YouTube. You can comment there, like the video. All of that is appreciated as we grow. This is our 5th episode. Many more to come. I've got lots of players lined up and lots of interesting people lined up as well. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.